Welcome back, dear champs. Dear champs, let us study one more poem from the pen of John Keats. John Keats, one of the most important poets of the second generation of romantics. The poem I'm just going to explain it to you is La Belle Dame Sans Merci, a very famous ballad, written in English language. But before I start explaining you the first six quatrains of this poem, I would like to tell you something about the composition and the structure of this very particular poem. As I told you that La Belle Dame Sans Merci, the poem that I am going to discuss with you in all detail is a ballad. Ballad is a narrative story in verse language of poetry. Ballad is generally written in quatrains. Quatrai quatrain. Quatrain is a stanza form of 4 lines. So the poem is written in ballads. The total number of the stanzas used in this poem is 12, and one quatrain is consisted of or consists of 4 lines. So 12 just you can say 12, you can say that if 12 quatrains, it means 48 lines, and in this video I'm covering first 24 lines, means first you can say that first 6 quatrains of the poem. Next, the meter used in the ballad, or the meter used in the foot used in the ballad is tetra and tri. Tetra 4 meter or 4 feet, tri 3 meter or 3 feet. Next, there are generally 2 kinds of ballads. One traditional ballad or classical ballad. Classical or traditional ballads are those ballads which were just transmitted from one generation to the other orally, whereas literary ballad is that ballad that is written following the norms and traditions of the classic ballads. So this ballad of John Keats actually is a literary ballad. Next, this very particular poem was composed in the year 1819, the year that was the most fruitful year of the poetic career of John Keats. That was very brief, or that was very small. Why? Because you know that this very particular poet started writing in the year 1816 around, and by the year 1820 he had stopped writing. Why? Because in the year 1820 he had been experiencing severe bouts of illness. He had been actually suffering from tuberculosis, and tuberculosis had become very lethal and you can say deadly by the time it, or yes, in the year 1820. And this lethal disease, before killing him, killed his mother, killed his own dear sweet brother Tom Keats. After his death, he wrote this very particular poem, and that lethal disease also claimed his own life in the year 1821. So these were the certain important you can say important pieces of information relating or related to this very particular poem. Now let's study, let's look at the first 6 quatrains of this poem that is all about love, that is all about death, that is all about obsession, that is all about enchantment. How obsession, first enchantment, attraction leads to obsession, and that obsession leads to death, destruction. So through this very particular poem, you can say that the poet is somehow advising us to safeguard ourselves, to protect ourselves from such kind of lethal obsession for certain person, obsession for anything. Why? Because obsession kills. Actually, obsession kills someone spiritually. If a man becomes obsessive, particularly in love, you say that obsession for a certain thing kills that man spiritually, or deserts the man in such a manner that man loses interest in everything. Just like the speaker or the central character or the protagonist of this very particular poem, that is a knight, a military officer working under the kings in the medieval time. So the setting of the poem is medieval time. Since John Keats was very much fond of the art and architecture of Greece, very much fond of medieval time, and medieval time was time of mystery, mysticism, romance, chivalry, so on and so forth. Through this very particular poem, he's also been just celebrating or enjoying all those things. Why? Because the setting of this poem is medieval time. Why? Because it was the medieval time when this knighthood was in vogue or was in operation. So now let's start the poem. Oh, what can ail thee? Ail means pain, suffer, trouble thee, knight at arms. Knight at arms, you can say a military officer under the king who is well equipped with arms. Arms means guns, arms and ammunition. So the just central character, that is the protagonist of this poem, is a knight, and this knight is well equipped with the arms, but he is in a kind of trouble. That's why the speaker of the poem, he is asking. Here the speaker of the poem meets a knight, and that knight looks haggard. Means that knight, see, haggard word is used here. That knight does not look normal, does not look happy. It seems as if the sorrow of the world has fully finished him, as if he is in the ocean of suffering. And that's why here the speaker of the poem, you can say, is putting a question just before this knight at arms. At arms means well equipped with guns or the sword, actually sword, alone and palely loitering. Alone, he's all alone. He does not have anybody. Palely, absolutely pale look means he does not look healthy. Loitering, just moving. So here the speaker of the poem, in the first 2 lines of the poem, is putting question. Here the speaker wants to know from this knight what is the thing that is actually troubling him. He looks in a kind of trouble. His face speaks volume about his own trouble, and that's why the speaker wants to know the suffering of this night. See, the sedge says a kind of a grass or a kind of a vegetation has withered, shriveled or wilted, wilted, wilted or faded from the lake, and no birds sing. So what does the what do the withered sedge and no birds sing stand for? That the winter is so horrible. The cold is so much in the atmosphere that the cold has destroyed the grass grown all around the lake. Even a single bird cannot be seen out. Why? Because the trees have lost their leaves. The trees are badly covered with the snow. The cold is at its own peak, but in such a bad weather, this very particular this night, all alone is wandering. It means he is in great trouble. See, so first stanza ends here, but again the second stanza. See, oh, what can ail thee nights? Night at home, here not nights, night. So again the same first line is repeated. Night at arms, so haggard, so disturbed, and so woe begone. Woe means a kind of a suffering. So woe begone means he looks absolutely under great trouble or in great trouble, under great pressure. So again he wants to know. Again, this speaker of the poem wants to know from this night, why does he look so horrible, or why does he look so upset? Why has his face lost its natural charm, its natural glow, its natural redness of the rose? See, the squirrel, is the kind of that animal. Granary is full and the harvest done. So he says that see the animals, not even a single animal can be seen outside. Even the squirrel, squirrel makes so much, squirrel makes so many movements all the time. A squirrel is seen busy in doing this, running and racing here and there. But he says that see, before the winter is so, at present the cold is so much that see, the squirrel has filled actually its store, its granary. It has sufficient food to eat, and that's why it is not out. Why? Because the weather condition is absolutely not friendly. And even the farmers, the peoples have harvested their crops. They have also filled their store with the grains before the beginning of the winter. So not even a single person is outside. Why? Because the weather condition is absolutely horrible. But even then, this night is wandering with a pale look and with his long face that has the moisture of the fever on his own face. See that? And the harvest done. Now see the next stanza of the poem. I see a lily on thy brow. So he says, I see a lily on thy brow. Means, metaphor is used. See, here the speaker of the poem says that see, your forehead, brow means your forehead, looks absolutely white, like the lily flower, with anguish, pain, moist means moisture, and fever, dew. So he says that your face is wet with the pain and with the fever. The fever and pain has to some extent bowed you down, to some extent has broken you down, and it's all because of that your face looks absolutely white like lily, and your face is covered with the wetness of the moisture of the fever. And on thy cheeks and on thy cheeks are fading rose. Here, not here. On thy cheeks are, yes, or F-A, no. And on thy cheeks, say this is, on thy cheeks a fading rose, fast withereth too. And he, see, first of all, the forehead, this is the forehead of the night is compared to lily, that is absolutely white like lily, so metaphor. And then the cheeks of the night actually are compared to the red rose soon after blooming. See, the rose starts losing its redness, its natural glow, in a very rapid manner. In the same manner here, the redness of the cheeks of this night very rapidly disappearing. It means he is in a great trouble, or he is in great sorrow and suffering. But unfortunately, the speaker of the poem does not know, and that's why he is asking him to explain him the reason of his own suffering, the reason of his own problem. So fast withereth too. I now see the next stanza. You can say this is the fourth stanza of the poem. It begins now. I met a lady in the meadow. So see, in the first three stanzas, the speaker of the poem non-stop asking this very particular night the reason of his own haggard look, the reason of his own suffering and problem. Now he is going to answer him. I met a lady in the mead. So he says that actually one day he met a beautiful woman in the grassland. Meads means grassland. Full beautiful. A fairy. F-A-E-R-Y. F-A. This is E-R-Y, a fairy's child. So now he says that now he's explaining him. Now he's answering him and explaining him the reason or the cause of his own suffering, the cause of his own pain and anguish. He says that one day, the other day, I met a woman, or I met a girl in the grassland. And to see the beauty of that very particular woman, it seemed to me, or I got to feel that she was the child of a fairy. Why? Because that woman did not look like the women on this planet, or women of this planet. Why? Because she was mesmerizingly beautiful. He means to say that full beautiful means she was absolutely different. She was absolutely a wonder. And seeing this, probably he fell straightway for her. That is the enchantment, attraction. And how attraction soon will become obsession, and that obsession leads him to leads him to death and destruction. So here he is talking about the deadliness of obsession, the deadliness of love. See this. So a fairy child, again comparison, again metaphor is used. You can say that her hair was long, her feet was light, means absolutely. I told you that she looked absolutely a woman from another world, a fairy world. She had long hair, her foot was absolutely light, means she walked in a graceful manner. Her gait was absolutely different, G-A-I-T, gait. Her style of walking was elegant, mesmerizing, and her eyes were wild, big, enchanting eyes. Those eyes that could captivate, and really those eyes enthralled him. How he was enthralled by the large, enchanting eyes of this fairy's child. See, so see, now he is absolutely spellbound. He is enslaved. The large, mesmerizing, enchanting eyes of this fairy girl, you can say, or fairy woman, have actually captivated him, have actually, you can say that, have actually enslaved him. And when one becomes enslaved to someone, you better understand, one dances to the tune of that very particular person. Same happens here. Now he says, what is the result of this enslavement? He says he made garland for her head. So he made a crown. He made a crown particularly for the head of that woman, of extraordinary beauty. And he used flowers particularly for that. So he used fresh flowers particularly for making garland for decorating the head of that woman of extraordinary beauty. Why? Because now he was doing everything she was asking. Why? Because he had become enslaved. He was thrall. He had become the slave of that very particular woman. Why? Because he was badly attracted to her. See, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets, two and fragrant zones. So he says that since he was enchanted, he had become enslaved by the large eyes, or by the large and wild eyes of that very particular woman I met in the meadow or the grassland. He did everything she asked him, or he did everything to please her. He made just a garland particularly for her head, and bracelets of flowers particularly for her hands, and a belt particularly for her waist. He made so many things. She looked at me as she did love, and when he did so many things for her, what did she do for him? She gave him a look, and that look spoke volume, or that look actually meant that she was in love with him, or her very look wanted to say to him that she was in love with him, just as he was absolutely attracted towards her and did so many things. And how now that very particular woman has become or had become a kind of a obsession for this speaker this night, those who are so strong physically, so strong mentally. But see how one becomes weak in love, how one becomes obsessed in love, and after being obsessed in love, how does one do so many things? How does one become so weak? That poems also indirectly hints about that. See, she looked at me as she did love and made sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed. So he says that when he made just a garland for her, bracelets for her, a fragrant zone for her waist, then what did she do? She gave him a loving look, and that look meant that she loved him. She was expressing her love for him. And after that, even she produced some sounds, and those sounds meant that she was straightway deep in love with him, just as that woman had become obsession for this night. The woman also returned something positive. I set her on my pacing steed. He says that he made her sit on his running horse. Pacing is running, steed here horse, and nothing else, nothing else, nothing else all day long. And he says, sorry, and nothing else saw all day long. And he says, see, now obsession, that how he became obsessive, particularly for this woman whom he met at a meadow, that by making her sit, or by placing her on his own racing moving horse, he did nothing. He saw nothing save this woman. His eyes were all the time fixed on this very particular woman. It means he was absolutely obsessed. Now he only and only had one thing in his heart and head, that was woman. So see how lethal obsession becomes. For sidelong would she bend and sing, and a fairy song. He says that all the time she was bending to a certain side while sitting on the horseback, and went on singing. So on one hand, that woman who looked absolutely beautiful, just a child of a fairy, okay, sitting there on the horseback, she bending to a certain side. She was all the time singing in a very strange language, the language he did not understand. And he did nothing but only and only allowing his eyes to feed on the mesmerizing beauty of this woman. So see, he is absolutely obsessive. This woman has become obsession for this night, and how this obsession leads him to his catastrophe. So these are the first 6 stanzas of the poem. Now let's look at the figures of speech. So, what can ail the knight at arms? What can ail the knight at arms? Fine. Oh, what can ail the knight at arms? Fine. alone and palely loitering. So see here in this very particular just a line, just the sound of LC, alone L sound, palely L sound, loitering L sound means a repetition of L sound means consonance is used in the first line. See, the sedge has withered from the lake, the sedge fine. See here here the repetition of the see, and no birds sing, no birds sing fine. Oh, what can ail the night at arm. So again the repetition of the first line means you can say this is also the refrain of the poem. Thus, if a certain line of the poem that holds the central theme or the central idea of the poem is repeated, that line becomes the refrain of the poem. So this is refrain also. So haggard and so woe begone, so haggard and so. See, repetition of so to emphasize on the horrible or on the sadness and sorrow that this night has won. The squirrel's granary is full, fine, and the harvest done. I see a lily on thy brow. So comparison of the forehead of the night, all right, to the lily. So metaphor is used with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose. So here again comparison is cheeks are compared to the rose, the redness of the cheek compared to the rose. So again metaphor. Fast withereth too, fast withereth too. So you can say again here repetition of T sound withereth too. So again consonants, you can say that I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy child, again comparison. So again metaphor, you can say that her hair was long, her feet was light, and her eyes were wild, I made a garland for her head, fine, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone, fine, bracelet too, and fragrant zones. She looked at me as she, so she looked, she repeated, again you can say alliteration, here, repetition here, and made sweet moan. So made moan, again alliteration. I set her on my pacing steed, set steed, again alliteration, and nothing else. Saw and nothing, and nothing, and OTHING, nothing, ELSELs, saw, yes, nothing else, saw all day long, fine. For sidelong, would she bend, sidelong, she, again alliteration, and sing, see, again side, she sang all as a fairy song, means again comparison is again metaphor is used. So these are the figures of speech used in the first 6 stanzas of the poem. I hope these 6 stanzas would absolutely be clear to you. Thank you for watching.